各位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄。家國國民喺通貨膨脹以及食品價格飆升之下咧，度過咗2023年。甚至有國民就表示每個月喺扣除食物以及其他必要嘅雜項開支之後，僅餘嘅儲蓄咧就只係剩翻個位數字。有人亦都為咗要收支取得平衡，各出奇謀，以更加精打細算嘅方式咧去購買生活用品㗎。呢啲嘅方法係咪可行呢？而公眾又需要經歷幾長嘅時間先至能夠見到食品價格回落呢？
I think the cost of groceries is putting a lot of financial stress on Canadians. It's starting to come down to, do I even have enough for groceries and what can I afford?
In our 40-year history, this kind of demand we've never seen. We saw a 52% increase in our numbers compared to last year. And a lot of this increase has to do with the recent new immigrants and refugee crisis that we are seeing. A lot of seniors that have limited incomes.
You think they're going to lower their prices because they had a meeting? It's crazy. The prices are going through the roof. They're making the Liberal government is driven up. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, food price inflation is the worst that it has been in 4 decades.
根據加拿大統計局數字顯示，雜貨價格仍然處於較高水平。2023年10月份，雜貨價格按年上升咗5.4%。加拿大民眾喺通貨膨脹同埋食品價格飆升嘅情況底下度過咗成年。食品價格高企，令民眾儲蓄計劃受到影響。安省多倫多一位女士拍片上網，控訴食品價格飆升令佢入不敷支，每個月只係剩翻9蚊。民眾都各出奇謀。居住喺卑斯省接壤美國邊境嘅 Brandy Dustin 為咗節省金錢，專程揸車去到美國購買所需品。佢話咁樣係逼不得已。
I'm concerned that there's so many people and families that are struggling to afford a basic human need. There's children's nutrition is being compromised because we can't afford all the healthy choices that we were once able to. People are having to skip bills and choose, okay, which bill do I skip so I can afford groceries? And then you're just getting more and more behind. My parents are having to work more in order to make more money to afford groceries. And food, to me, is something that should be shared. It should bring people together. It shouldn't stress them out, and they shouldn't have to worry about how they're going to be able to attain it. And I'm quite worried that there's no solution or end in sight, and the cost of groceries is going to continue to climb. I think the cost of groceries is putting a lot of financial stress on Canadians. It's starting to come down to, do I even have enough for groceries and what can I afford? I feel like a lot of people are having to penny pinch and make decisions when it comes to choosing what you get at the grocery store instead of getting what you actually want. Like now you're buying lower brands, short-dated discount food. You're skipping out on fruits and vegetables you used to buy, eating less meat. I found this to be hard as well with a baby starting solids. There was a lot of foods that I wanted her to be able to try, and it just wasn't possible at the time. Strawberries were $9 for the 1 pound one. So she didn't get to try strawberries for a really long time.
Brandy 話：由於自己屋企靠近加美邊境，喺衡量過之後，決定去到美國購買食品同埋雜貨。
The cost of the more expensive items definitely is offset by the cheaper items. Meat and dairy, you can't even come close to touching down compared to Canada. We can't come close to it. Their meat and dairy is priced quite well over there. And those are two of the most expensive categories I find that you usually buy at the grocery store. I was actually quite surprised when I first started doing the price comparisons. I thought like, I'll just go down and grab a few things. It'll probably end up costing me a bit more. But the more I compared prices and figured out the exchange rate, the more I kept seeing savings. Even when the exchange rate gets atrocious, there's still savings there, which is shocking because the exchange rate is not great. I found that I'm saving on average $80 a trip, which is $80. That's quite a bit of money. There hasn't been a trip so far that I've done where I haven't saved money.
Randy 表示一直支持本地經濟同埋本地商店，但而家本國嘅生活成本太高，唔能夠唔為自己同埋家庭着想。
I used to very strongly believe in shop local, support local. Hugely. I was all about, keep the money where it is, shop local. And sadly, that's no longer the case. The cost of living in Canada has made it really hard to stand by that. We try as a family and support small businesses. Definitely around the holidays is a big time. But at this point, I find daily living's just become about keeping your head above water, being selfish, and just doing the best you can do for your family. If I can put more money in my family's pocket, that's extra money. That's for bills, that's for debt, that's hopefully to be able to do something fun for our family or take a holiday. Like I believe people should be able to work to live and not live to work. And sadly, that's becoming more and more the case is people are just living to work. That's all they can do to get by.
Randy 話預計喺可見嘅未來仍然需要用呢一種方法去節省開支。
I think for the foreseeable future, that's what I'm going to have to continue to do until groceries have come down again to a more affordable spot that it makes it worth it for me to go and put money back into here. I'll feel like I'm getting something out of it. Whereas right now, I just feel like I'm basically tossing my money away and I'm not getting anything for it. So for now, yes, I will continue to go to the States, and I think sadly that will be the future for a while.
究竟係啲咩原因導致本國雜貨價格不斷上升呢？
Most of it has to do with simple logistics. If I live in America, I can get oranges pretty cheaply because they grow in America. It's way more expensive to get them in Canada. We've got to sort them, put them on a truck, and drive them 3,000 miles or 3,000 kilometers rather from Florida to, say, Toronto, or even further to Vancouver. If we are going to enjoy things like almonds from California, those don't grow in Canada. So to some extent, when we import food from America, the currency has mattered. The Canadian dollar has fallen against the US dollar. But in general, what we look at is for why there are price differences for food around the world. A lot of the times it has to do with transportation and storage costs.
另外一名學者豆烤時大學農產品分析實驗室總監士番 Fairchild 就認為食品雜貨價格上升源自於新冠疫情改變咗全球供應鏈運作。
Well, I mean, essentially, there are a variety of factors, starting with geopolitics. The issue with Ukraine came at a cost. Now things are much better now, much more manageable. But the Ukrainian invasion actually did cost a lot of money and has made many categories more expensive. The other issue, of course, is COVID. Supply chains are actually much less efficient as a result. The situation is improving, but when supply chains are less efficient, typically things cost more. So input costs cost more. To move products is costing more. Packaging costs, labor costs, salaries have gone up in many different ways, and so that's why it's more challenging now for companies to get people to work and at an affordable rate. And so they've taken advantage of the political capital they had to raise their salaries. And so you can't really drop salaries anymore. Salaries only go up, and that's why prices are going up.
Fairchild 又認為本國可能需要更多競爭，先至能夠讓價格有所放緩。
I mean, do we want more competition? Of course, we want more competition. Even if we had like 10 grocers in Canada, we still would want more competition. I don't think that's the question. But I do think that that the group that we have is, I would say, quite comfortable. There's room for improvement there. They have a lot of power, and so I think it's important to open things up, but it's going to be very difficult to do unless you actually make Canada a more attractive place to invest. It's going to be very difficult for any grocers to come into Canada. In fact, actually, what's really ironic is that you have a Canadian chain going to the U.S. right now, TNT, which is owned by Loblaws. It's going to the U.S. right now. It is opening up 2 stores, but nobody's coming to Canada.
食品同埋雜貨價格仍然高企，係咪有人需要負責？聯邦保守黨黨領博勵治 Pierre Poilievre 認為，執政嘅聯邦自由黨係導致物價上升嘅始作俑者。
Did you notice your prices go down after this meeting?
Yeah, do you think so?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but do
I don't think so.
By the way, do you
You think they're going to lower their prices because they had a meeting? It's crazy. The prices are going through the roof. They're making the Liberal government is driven up. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, food price inflation is the worst that it has been in 4 decades. We have 1.5 million people going to a food bank every month, 7 million skipping meals. 1 in 5 Canadians actually miss a meal in order to pay their bills. That's how bad it is after 8 years of Trudeau and the NDP. We know why. They brought in a carbon tax on the fuel of the farmer who make the food and the truckers who ship the food, which is a tax on all who buy the food. And then they've printed $600 billion of new cash to fund their deficits, which inflated everything. My common sense plan, axe the tax and cap spending and cut waste so that we can balance the budget and bring down interest rates and inflation. That's how Canadians will once again bring home affordable food.
不過事翻 Charlie 報就話喺呢個問題上要小心處理，唔能夠一概而論。
I mean, you have to be careful. What are we blaming anyone for? Higher prices? Well, you could blame the world because Canada still has one of the lowest food inflation rates within the G7. Only the US has a lower food inflation rate. So this was a global phenomena. So should you blame the UK Prime Minister or the Germany Chancellor? Or the blaming game to me is futile because it doesn't really resolve anything. Because we were looking at a global phenomena. Now, in most countries, they actually did the same thing. They were blaming grocers, and grocers are the easiest to blame because most consumers only understand retail. But there is an entire supply chain behind retailers that actually would need to be recognized and acknowledged as well. And supply chain economics are largely misunderstood in Canada.
唔同學者都認為導致食品價格上升嘅原因嚟自國內外兩方面。咁對於一啲低收入人士及家庭嘅生活開支嘅影響咧，就尤其顯著。而食物周濟庫嘅需求又增加咗幾多呢？我哋下一節翻嚟再睇。歡迎翻嚟節目時間。有唔少學者都預測今年嘅食品價格將會繼續上升，大約2.5%至4.5%。咁對於一啲低收入嘅家庭，面對住龐大嘅食品開支，經常都面對入不敷支嘅困局。有資料就顯示，去年單喺3月到訪食物周濟庫嘅民眾咧，就大約有200萬人，比起2022年同期多出38%㗎。
隨住食品同埋雜貨價格持續上升，一啲低收入人士同埋家庭嘅財政壓力更加嚴峻。 加拿大食物周濟庫2023年做咗一份名為 Hunger Count 嘅年度報告。喺2023年3月，全國就有近200萬人到訪食物周濟庫，同2022年同月相比錄得3%嘅增長，對比2019年同期更加錄得接近8%嘅增長。而喺卑斯省，舊年到訪過省入邊嘅食物周濟庫錄得超過19萬人次，當中近30%係兒童。呢一日，我哋去到列治文食物周濟庫，了解過供應同埋需求嘅情況。
In our 40-year history, this kind of demand we've never seen. We saw a 52% increase in our numbers compared to last year. And a lot of this increase has to do with the recent new immigrants and refugee crisis that we are seeing. A lot of seniors that have limited incomes, we are seeing a lot of that number or that demographic also increase because the cost of living is so high, like price of food as well as housing. Both of those increases has hit our clients, disproportionately. So it's becoming harder and harder for our clients to stretch their limited income, and because food is the one discretionary expense, that's the first thing that gets cut from their budget, and they don't have enough food for themselves or their families. So the food bank becomes a lifeline for many of our clients.
Hajira 表示好擔心呢個情況持續落去，會造成糧食危機。佢希望有更多食物捐贈活動，加強社區食物供應保障。
It is a cause for concern. I mean, if this continues long term, then yes, we will have to find innovative ways to meet that demand. Right now, as I said, it is a challenge, and we try to recover more food. A lot of community or businesses, they are doing food drives for us. A lot of schools are doing food drives for us. So that allows us to keep our inventories up. But again, as the need increases, it will be harder for us to keep up our supplies and meet that increased demand. But my hope is like more businesses, especially the food businesses, they are donating food to food banks. So if they have surplus food that they are disposing at the end of the day, maybe they should donate it instead, or if that's directly from the food businesses. From the government standpoint, maybe they can have certain policies that can strengthen food security within our community. So those two initiatives might help us keep our food stocks up. Each day, every distribution day, we have close to 200 to 300 households. Saturday is our busiest day, where we see almost 300, we are averaging 300 households. On Thursdays, it's about 220 to 30 households, but over the course of a week, we see 1,200 families every week. And over the course of a month, it's about 3,000 to 3,500 individuals. Clients are able to come and access our services once a week. So everybody, yes, every week they can come, and our week is Monday through Saturday, and we track them in our database. So if and in addition to this location, we also have 3 other locations, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's at churches. So that's especially the one on Monday and Wednesday, it's a hamper model. So we will not have a choice model like this, but it's pre-packed hamper. So if people are having trouble standing in the lineup, or if they don't have that much time to wait, then it's a pre-packed hamper. They come in, they grab the hamper, and then they leave. So it's like 15 minutes, you get your food. So
Hajira 期望各級政府能夠伸出援手，同埋解決當前嘅問題。
Government support can certainly help us, help food banks in general. A lot of food banks, they are renting their place. So maybe the municipal government can help in that regard, having a place where where they don't have to pay the rent, so food banks can continue to offer their services to the people, and then that will be all the money that they were paying in rent that can be used to purchase more food. So that's at the local level. At the provincial or the federal level, the provincial level especially, it seems like the current government is taking steps to strengthen food security initiatives, and they recently announced a huge grant that will be coming to all the food banks through Food Banks BC. So that that kind of support always helps, because that is for enhancing food bank operations. So it's for food purchases, it's for staffing, it's for operations. So we need that kind of funding to be ongoing and consistent. So that will help us to serve our clients and not worry about the inflation or the economic uncertainty that we are in.
喺舊年10月，聯邦工業部長商鵬飛聯同副總理兼財長方慧蘭約見本國5大連鎖超市集團代表，商討點樣穩定食品價格措施。商鵬飛喺會後透露，本國食品雜貨價格將會喺未來幾個星期見到跌幅。不過又有唔少報道預測，食品價格將會喺今年仍然會繼續攀升。有份參與會議嘅杜克斯大學農產品分析實驗室總監Fairchild認為會議有建設性。
I'm not allowed to speak to what actually happened in the room. They were all there, and frankly, I think the discussion was quite constructive. But I must say, I mean, generally speaking, the minister wants to force the issue, but I don't think he can do anything. I mean, really, he can't. If he actually implements a windfall tax, if he decides to tax grocers, well, at the end of the day, Canadians will pay for that tax because they'll just increase prices. So you're not solving anything. I just think that right now, the number one tactic that Ottawa is using is fear. That's it. And I don't think it's going to work.
最近唔少民眾都聽到 inflation 呢一個字，即係縮水式通脹，意思就係價錢唔變，但食物營養同埋材料出現變化，甚至有減少份量。究竟縮水式通脹會唔會成為往後嘅常態呢？
The biggest problem it poses is for people who have challenges with numeracy. For the most part, people will think a package of pasta costs $4. And then as the package gets a little bit smaller, they still see it costing $4. The clever thing that most people should be trying to do is looking at how much they get for each dollar that they pay. So how much meat am I getting for $5 as opposed to it's meat or it's $5 worth? So in that sense, people who are used to shopping for particular groceries and are finding that they're getting less for the same amount of money, that is basically the same thing as having the prices go up. Mathematically, it's the same thing. But from a marketing perspective, people see a change in price much more readily than they see a change in the package.
咁有啲咩方法可以令到食品雜貨價格有所放緩，令本國國民財政壓力稍為減輕呢？
I have 3 recommendations. One, 4,600 products are taxed at the grocery store. Some of them should be taxed, so not very good for you, but some of those products are very good for you, and they're taxed. You pay a retail tax on many products. I would eliminate the retail tax. Secondly, I would try to support families in need. I would actually launch a nutrition certificate program through farmers markets, so people can actually redeem gift certificates at farmers markets and not just get money so they can spend it on anything and everything. Just make sure they actually get money to spend only on food. Supporting farmers, that's the connection. And third, I would actually put a pause on the carbon tax across the supply chain. I actually do think that the carbon tax right now is really hurting Canadians, and I think we need to better assess exactly the impact of the carbon tax on on what's going on with food affordability in general.
好啦，今集嘅節目時間差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係 mag26@fairchildtv.com。咁如果觀眾咧想上網重溫翻今集節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得翻㗎啦。下星期同樣時間再同大家見面，晚安。